Bramborough back with Grand Tactician Civil War, our recently started CSA campaign in 1.09 beta. Beauregard and Joe Johnston prevailed in the First Battle of Manassas. McDowell's army has fallen back to the banks of the Potomac River in disarray. Confederate armies push in on him again, aiming to drive the Yankees out of Virginia, or at very least out of this part of Virginia for now. Will they succeed? Before getting into the video, in episode 1, I asked who these 8 generals are and what do they have in common. And there were indeed some correct answers in the comments. Most of these gents are easily recognizable to many, but 1 or 2 may not be. Just going from left to right and bottom to top. John Bell Hood, Pierre Gustave Touton Beauregard, Robert E. Lee, Joe Johnston, Albert Sidney Johnston, Braxton Bragg, and then a couple guys that may not be quite as recognizable. This is Edmund Kirby Smith. And this, on the upper right, is Samuel Cooper. And what these 8 have in common is these were the 8 full generals, what would be called a 4-star general today. They wouldn't have said that then because the insignia was different. 5 were created at the outset of the war, and then 3 more were promoted during the course of the war. 7 of the 8 were permanent promotions. The 5 original, and if I mess this up, I'm sure someone will mention that in comments, but I'm pretty sure that the 5 original were Cooper, Lee, the 2 Johnstons, and Beauregard. And then Bragg, Smith, and Hood were promoted to general later in the war. Hood's promotion was temporary. It was essentially a positional promotion because toward the end of the war in 1864, he commanded the Army of Tennessee and was temporarily promoted to general while he was in command of that army. Before the war ended in 1865, he did leave command of that army and did revert back to his permanent grade of lieutenant general. But he was a full general for a while, toward the end. And then I will all these guys did multiple things during the war, but basically what they were generals for: command of the Army of Tennessee for Hood, the initial command of what would later become the Army of Northern Virginia. At the time, it was called the Army of the Potomac for Beauregard for the First Battle of Manassas. Obviously, Lee commanded the Army of Northern Virginia. Johnston commanded several armies, the Army of the Shenandoah, and then later the combined army that would become the Army of Northern Virginia prior to Lee taking command. Later, he commanded the department out west, and he also commanded the Army of Tennessee at one point. Albert Sidney Johnston, early in the war, commanded that department out west. Basically, he commanded everything west of the Appalachian Mountains before they broke out the Trans-Mississippi. So he had an enormous geographical area. And he also commanded the first large army over there that would later become the Army of Tennessee, and commanded at Shiloh, where he was killed. Braxton Bragg commanded the Army of Tennessee. Edmund Kirby Smith held several commands, but he became a general because later he became the commander of the Trans-Mississippi Department, Arkansas, Texas, Louisiana, Indian Territory. Samuel Cooper was actually the senior-most general in the Confederate States Army. He outranked all these other guys. He was the adjutant general and Inspector General. Stayed in Richmond the entire war, basically administrative command, but for the entire army. I've always, basically, he was kind of like the CSA's Henry Halleck, if you will. You don't read very much about him. He had to have done something. I've always found it odd that there isn't more discussion of Samuel Cooper in the Civil War historical literature. Anyway, so that is that. And I already talked too much about it, but in any case, okay, let's get into the episode. In the last episode, we fought the first Battle of Manassas, probably the first of many, truth be told. And it was a pretty good battle, I thought. We did take quite a few casualties. The Union did take more, and the Union was defeated. However, McDowell's army just didn't come very far. He's come right over here on the riverbank, which strikes me as odd because there's no IIP here, unless it's counting. In any case, it just seems like a strange place for him to retreat to. I think what we want to do is hit him again and drive him out of Virginia. We may have to fight a battle, or he may just retreat. He does still have quite a few troops, less troops than he had before the Battle of Manassas. Army of Northern Virginia is at Orange readiness. However, this is Virginia soil. We don't need yellow or green readiness to move within Virginia or even to attack. Got confident morale here. Army of the Shenandoah has got determined morale. I think the thing to do is hit him again, hopefully drive him out of Virginia and open the way to come up here and, I say capture, recapture Alexandria. That's a Virginia city, for crying out loud. At the moment, I don't think Winchester is immediately under threat because Patterson's Department of Pennsylvania has moved over here close to Washington. There is a federal army that starts here at Grafton. In addition, there's also this West Virginia militia that starts up at Wheeling. It's quite possible, even to the point of probable, that McClellan's Army of Occupation will march over this way to Winchester. So that's bad for us in the Shenandoah, and we'll have to deal with that. But that is a fairly common development when playing as the CSA versus the Union. That will open an opportunity, however, for Army of the Northwest under Garnett to move up here and take Grafton and Wheeling unopposed. So if that does occur, it wouldn't be all bad. I think what I am going to do is let's put Garnett's army on scouting mode to help a little bit with intelligence and just move him up just close enough where hopefully he can just sight McClellan's army. Let's do that. Meanwhile, let's get our two main armies and push right into McDowell again. I'm hoping he just retreats. However, he's got enough troops, he may not. Let Johnston get up here kind of even with Beauregard first. That's good. Let's march these two armies forward. Looks like Johnston's going to make contact first. Okay. So it's a siege situation, and that's okay. Let's just get Beauregard involved in this battle first, and then we can convert it to a tactical situation. Okay, we've got both armies engaged now. Let's see what our prognosis is here. Okay, so the number of troops is just about dead even. 24,000 infantry combined for us, and about 26,000 for McDowell. This thing is predicted to be in our favor. However, we've been down this road before in a prior campaign, right? It may be in our favor now, but this is going to go on for a while, which leaves open the possibility that Patterson could get off his ass and come down and join, and then we would be at a significant disadvantage. And then also in these kind of campaign map level siege, auto-resolve type situations, it's hard to tell what the morale's going to do. And it looks like it's going good, it's going good, it's going good, and all of a sudden it's not going good. So I believe it is in our interest to assault. No, it says assault. However, in my experience, and we've seen this plenty of times over multiple campaigns, it doesn't happen every single time, but I would say there's probably like an 80, maybe even 90+% probability that we'll get a defensive situation from this. We'll see. I'm not guaranteeing it. Right, this is the Battle of Potomac River. Battle of the Potomac. Being fought right on the banks. It's the Manassas map. What are you going to do? There's only so many maps to go around. That's the way it is in this region. Not quite a defensive situation, but essentially it is. It's a meeting situation. However, the objective is right here, just outside the edge of our deployment zone. We have both of our armies on the field. This is Johnston's Army of the Shenandoah up here, and we've got Beauregard's Army of Army of Northern Virginia here. So clearly, we can just set up a position. It's going to be a defensive battle. And I think what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to repeat my mistake from the last battle where, I marched forward to try to defend along fords. The objective was somewhere around here in that case. And wound up getting flanked. In retrospect, I'm not 100% sure the AI was really trying to do that. It just kind of worked out that way because of the routes that his units were taking to the objective. But in any case, I'm going to set up a defensive position right in here. And in actuality, this is pretty this is pretty historical in that if folks who may be familiar with the Second Battle of Manassas, that was fought in 1862, right along in here, along this unfinished railroad, this was basically the defensive position of Jackson's Corps in that battle. And the Federal Army kind of came in here and was attacking him heavily in the opening stages of that battle. If I remember correctly, I think it was John Pope commanding that army. And that was not the Army of the Potomac, per se. It was a separate Federal Army. I believe that there were elements of the Army of the Potomac on loan or involved in that battle. I could be wrong about the federal commander. Fitzjohn Porter is sticking in my head as well. He may have been a support. I'm going off on a tangent. In any case, and then Longstreet's Corps came in from the federal left and made a flanking attack, and it was a it was pretty hot and dicey for a while, but it wound up being a pretty crushing victory for Robert E. Lee's Army of Northern Virginia. And I'm kind of thinking, gee, that'd be nice to kind of replicate. I'm kind of thinking a defensive line and use that same unfinished railroad. It's the objective anyway. It is wooded through here, though. I don't know if I'm a super big fan of this. I'm happy with the cover that this railroad embankment would give us. And somewhat counterintuitively, I think that an unfinished railroad embankment actually provides more cover in the game mechanics than a finished railroad does. That seems kind of backwards, but I think I've seen that before. So I like the railroad line. I don't know if I like the terrain around the railroad line. Not much opportunity here for artillery. I don't know. In any case, I'm going to set up something defensive in this area. We've got plenty of brigades to do that, and I'll be back. It's the morning of day 2. I hadn't noticed beforehand that we were right at the very end of the day. There was just barely enough time for these brigades to come up and man up on the unfinished railroad. I did decide to go with this because the historical parallel was just too compelling not to do that. So we'll see how it works out. On the overnight deployment phase, got a different deployment zone. Cav had moved up here, and right here is where the two deployment zones intersect and butt up against each other. I'm starting the Cav here. He's in a spotting role, about all he can do, 300 men. If we put him right here, though, it's semi-cheesy. This is where there's at least one federal brigade coming down this road toward Ball's Ford. So it looks like they're taking the expected kind of orthodox route from their initial spawn point. This is the federal entry point here, right toward the objective, and that seems to be supporting our plan. I had set this up before the deployment zone and knew that's where that brigade was. Anyway, Van Dorn's just there just to show that is where at least, there's at least a division's worth coming down this way. So I would suspect that the rest of McDowell's army is moving in this general direction as well. Possibly some could be taking this route. Others could be coming over and taking the Warrenton Turnpike down. But right up here on this hill. Now, what I could have done, because of the shape of the zone, I could have set up a different defensive position right in here. But I think, we fought a lot of battles on this map over various campaigns. That's kind of a been there, done that thing. So to speak, including the last battle was fought right in this area. I like the idea of fighting down the kind of a little bitty mini replay of Second Manassas and see if it works out that way. I don't know if it will or not. They may try to flank in a different direction. Who knows? Yeah, it's 8:30 now, and Van Dorn and Stewart have got quite a few federal units all in sight here from the top of Henry Hill, and they're all working their way down through this road maze. toward the objective. But it looks like this leading infantry brigade under Gordon is pretty soon going to make contact with Johnston's troops. Over here on the far left, we've got Stonewall Jackson's division, which consists of the 82nd All-American and the 1st Georgia Sharpshooters. Nope, that's the wrong unit. There we go. 1st Georgia Sharpshooters. Anderson's still in command. He's still defamed. And in fact, on the campaign map, I didn't show it, but they got a tiny bit of unhappiness from that. It was pretty small, though. He's fine. They're fine. Look, eager morale. No problem. Do need to get Stewart's little 300-man Cav brigade out of here, though, before he starts making contact. Let's just bring him over here on the flank. He's done his job. Off you go. Also worth mentioning, so Johnston's 4 brigades are here, and then Beauregard's army, I've got the 2 bigger brigades kind of over here, ready to deliver a flanking attack if things develop that way. And he's also got his smaller divisions, Edwin Kirby Smith's, is also over here on the railroad embankment. We did capture some Springfield rifle muskets in the first battle. And given the fact that I'm recruiting smaller brigades in this campaign than I have in the past, there was about 4,500. I had just enough to equip 3 brigades, bumping them up from muskets to rifle muskets. And one of those was the Yell County Rifles under Claiborne. So now they're actually the Yell County Rifles, not the de facto Yell County muskets. Okay. Federal's got a little bit more marching to do, but I think we're going to have contact in earnest pretty soon. Okay, McDowell's brigades are moving forward, and they've made contact with our skirmish line, who I've put kind of up here in these woods. They're going to be driven in pretty soon, I think. Got these 2 divisions kind of just moving up a little bit, just to get a little bit closer. A little bit, in retrospect, it's a little late now. Actually, you know what? I don't think it is a little late. They're not in contact yet. Let's extend the line a little bit down the cut, or not the cut, but the embankment. And let's see if the 82nd does that march by the flank thing that we saw in the last battle. No, they're doing it the old way. That's okay. They're not under fire yet. These 2 brigades are overlapping a little bit. I can move them both down the line a little bit. I think they'll be in position by the time the skirmishers are driven in. And I got in the habit of saying Johnny Reb all the time in the last campaign. This campaign, it's going to be by the time Billy Yank comes into contact with our brigades. Okay, B skirms driven in. Anderson's won't be far behind him. Let's get Reynolds. Okay, he's already delivering flanking fire. Green Jacket Volunteers. here. Skirms. With rifles. Springfields. Okay. Let's go ahead and have Shelton bring his skirms in. They're about to break anyway. And I forgot to give everybody long-range orders. Completely forgot. Johnston, tell all you guys to actually fire when enemies come within range. Okay, I felt better about that. There was kind of some room there for them to come in and do a flanking maneuver. I think McDowell's got the bulk of his army here. I don't think there's anything else out here. Let's move these two divisions up a little bit closer. Let's bring the cav back over here next to these guns. Don't go that way. Well, that way's fine. Okay, if they're going to deliver an assault on us, I think it's going to be coming fairly soon. Fairly soon. Jackson, move over here. Closer to your brigades since you moved them down the embankment a little bit. Let's bring these guns up too. Limber them up. Something about... Well, if they're going to get any shots at all, it's going to be from over this direction. Let's bring them over here. I think it's going to get pretty hot for Jackson's division before this is over. Kind of feels that way. These guys finding shots from over on this hill at Sudley. Looks like we need to move them up a little bit. I need to be able to fire through here if they can to support the flank if they move in on Shelton. Kind of feels like they may get better shots just over here. We'll see if that works out. Skirmishers out again, kind of mess with their advance. We had kind of Beauregard's army front and center in the last battle, in the main position. Did most of the fighting. It's Joe Johnston's turn today. I already mentioned these two units, but 3 out of the 4 brigades in Johnston's force are Bureau units. The 82nd, 1st Georgia Sharpshooters on the left, and then we've also got the Green Jacket Volunteers in Walker's division on the right. Slaver and skirmishers are in a place to go help out. Avengers are too, but they're just musket armed. Just to play them where they are. Longstreet's division has got some woods in front of him. Let's just move him up a little bit closer. So he has less marching through woods once I do launch an attack through here. Hill's got open ground, but he's got a lot of fences across too. That's kind of a pain in the butt. Let's move AP Hill up too. Let's put him here. Good. Puget's artillery kind of in that same spot. Let's go ahead and bring the skirms. These skirms are in cover. I think they're still doing productive work there. Okay, 82nd is now engaged. So are the Georgia sharpshooters. Got nice cover here in this railroad embankment. And they do have Ace of Spades, so they've got even a little bit more cover. Did that by working on their breathworks in the last battle. One of these, yeah, B's 1st Brigade, not a viewer unit. I actually gave him engineering, and he built enough to get up to engineering 2, and he's already got some progress toward engineering 3. And what that does is, A, this unit will actually be able to build breastworks quite fast. But that's not the reason I did the 1 brigade. The presence of an engineering perk brigade will provide more engineering points for a battle. But that'll be helpful in the long run. My plan is to have 1 infantry brigade per corps. Not right now, they're armies, but in the future they're going to be corps. I'm going to have 1 infantry brigade per corps with the engineering perk to help with that. And actually, I'll probably swap B out and put an engineering officer in command there. Green Jackets put out another skirm line. Fire on this unit here. Okay. Jackson's division doing the number on these Federals over here. They started with low morale. What are we at here? 1,700 to 400 on casualties, and they're down to 38 morale. Before contact was made, I think they were at 43, and that's because they hadn't had time for their morale to recover yet after the previous battle. So running up and hitting them again is paying off, and we'll just have to see how the routing goes. You know, who knows which way they'll go. I'm hoping that they retreat back across the Potomac River. I don't think they will, though. They'll probably retreat to Alexandria. Okay. Once this 3rd Brigade, this 4th Brigade, and this other 3rd Brigade in a different division, once these 3 units break, I think this battle's going to be over. They're trying to make an advance here on the 1st Georgia sharpshooters. I don't think it's going to work out. They got low cohesion. So moving along that fence hurt them for cohesion. I've talked before in prior campaigns about how creeks and woods and fences kind of mess up as you move through them, across them, along them. I try to keep my units away from creeks and fences unless I have to. Okay, this 3rd Brigade is broken. I have noticed, and this is actually pretty recent, that there will be different shades, though. Sometimes it's a bright red, and sometimes it's a little bit darker red. Right? Like, therefore, a bit, this brigade was showing a little bit brighter red than that artillery unit back there was. I don't know if that means anything, or if that's just it just looks like a different shade or whatever. But there's kind of 2 different states of being routed, though. Because there's different reasons why a unit can break. You know, every unit's got this row of parts here, and this line gets longer to the right the more experience a unit has. And this is their loss resilience, right? This is the ability for the unit to keep going despite taking casualties. When this fills up and all these little heart icons are red, that unit is done. It's going to break, and it will not recover. It's not going to unbreak. And that's from heavy, heavy casualties. There are other reasons why a unit can break, though. Right? You get all these modifiers down here. Low cohesion, high fatigue, taking artillery fire, getting flanked, stuff like that. Those modifiers can build up and cause a unit to break as well, without having taken a lot of casualties. We see that a lot as well, where the unit really hasn't taken that many casualties, but they break. When that occurs, though, that unit will fall back to the corps or the army commander position, and they will rally. They won't rally real fast, but they'll be available again later in the battle. Particularly if it occurs like on the first day or the second day of fighting, and then there's another day after that, during the overnight deployment phase, they'll be fine the next day. That happened to us in the first battle. There were several units that routed early last episode. But then when we went to the deployment phase overnight, they were perfectly fine the next day. Okay. Georgia guys working on this artillery. All right. 82nd is thrown back. This 2nd Brigade. Anyway, I was talking about that because I wonder if that has any bearing at all on kind of the shade of red. Like a bright red is they might recover, a dark red is they're completely done. Or it might just have to do with whether or not I'm mousing over it. Like this guy looks dark, but then I don't even know if what I'm talking about is visible in the video, or if it's just something that I'm seeing as I'm looking at my monitor. I believe that they are retreating. Let's push Hill's division back in over here. Let's put them right up to about here. I'm just going to give them the regular march order, and then once they come in contact, So they'll start firing. I don't know if Longstreet's division is really going to be able to do much. They started with such low morale as it was. It's not really taking very much fire to cause these Union brigades to break, which I think is realistic. They started, with one hand tied behind their back because of their morale situation. I don't believe this is going to turn into a major victory. They're probably going to retreat long before they get up to anywhere close to 22%. But I think we can come out of the railroad embankment now and start pressing them a little bit. Let's move B and Reynolds up. B can bring the skirmishers back in. Reynolds is firing, but I want him advancing on this division, or on this brigade through here. Bill's about to take these guys in the rear back here. Allegheny Johnston's got to get up close because he's got muskets. And he's got to cross a damn fence to get there. I don't know if that was such a hot idea. And he's still unsupported. The rest of A.P. Hill's division hasn't come up yet. I don't think this 3rd Brigade is going to be able to do very well, though, with Johnston in his front, Reynolds coming up with flanking fire from his right rear. Johnny Rebs coming out of the woods over here. What are you going to do now, 3rd Brigade? Georgia sharpshooters out of their Mississippi rifles, firing that brigade. The unit's still trying to advance. Shelton. Get out. Casualties now. 3,800. First Brigade's turn. I think Johnston's just sitting there taking fire because he's got muskets. Move up, shoot back. Yeah, they're withdrawing. They're withdrawing. Well, I moved them, but I didn't really look again. I don't know if this artillery ever found any shots. And I don't know if I ever unlimbered. I did not, this artillery. And even if I had, I don't know if they would have found any firing opportunities. Taking some casualties there, advancing across open ground. I think they're doing okay though. I don't know how they haven't triggered the form. There we go. Okay. So these numbers for Union are estimates. Even on the HQ reports, they've lost about roughly 3,500 men, which means that the Army of Northeastern Virginia is now a little bit smaller than our combined force of our two armies. There's still Patterson up there to the north, but we whittled this army down a good bit. And remember, in about 3 weeks or so, their 90-day volunteer contracts are going to expire. And my hope is that having fought multiple battles without a chance for morale to recover, maybe I don't know if it will or not in the game mechanics, but maybe that'll drive that re-enlistment rate down a little bit. And anyway, pretty soon, this 22,000 man army, which just a few days ago was 32,000 men, pretty soon they're going to be about a 10, 11, 12,000 man army. That's good for us. So, how did the boys do? As I mentioned earlier, Beauregard's army was the star of the show in the last episode, and it was Joe Johnston's turn. And it certainly was. Vast majority of the casualties inflicted by the Army of the Shenandoah, 2,600 to only 400 by the Army of Northern Virginia in the supporting role. And very evenly distributed among the divisions and the brigades. About 1,300 for Jackson's division and 1,200 for Walker's in Jackson's division. Again, very even. 82nd and the 1st Georgia, pretty much neck and neck. And for the length of time that they were engaged, that's pretty good. Good job to those. And I don't think they took enormous casualties either. Well, just in general, we didn't. Yeah. Almost 200 for the 82nd and just a hair over 200 for the 1st Georgia sharpshooters. And over in Walker's division, 1st Brigade, that's the engineers. I need to rename those to some kind of engineering name. That's B's guys. For now, I'm going to put an engineer in charge of that brigade. B did take almost 400 casualties moving forward there. Green Jacket Volunteers, light losses. And they did also quite even on casualties inflicted as well. artillery in both armies. Did hardly nothing. Wasn't any great positions for them, and I think actually I don't think I ever remembered to unlimber these guys, and I don't know if they would have been able to fire anyway. Yeah, minor victory. This wound up being something like 13, 14%. We weren't going to catch all those units. Lost 5 guns. Hopefully we got at least another brigade's worth of Springfield rifle muskets. And we did lose about 1,200 guys. Didn't lose any cannon though, which is good. Right. Well, we captured another 2,000 rifles. Hopefully there's enough Springfield rifle muskets in there to to equip another brigade. Captured almost 600, but we don't have our POW camp built yet. It's building, though. Billy Yanks, you're not going home. Okay. This came up in comments, too, for the last episode. Check this out. Who catches the fame? Freaking UJ. The artillery commander in Beauregard's army. Who I don't think I ever even unlimbered them. I unlimbered them right at the very tail end. They might have gotten a few shots, but UJ gets the fame from that battle, which is kind of ridiculous. I kind of suspect this may be tied. It may be a little bit too dependent on what in many games would be called KDR, right? Kill to death ratio, inflicting casualties relative to how many taken. So artillery commanders tend to I've noticed over time that it kind of disproportionately goes to artillery commanders and that's why I think KDR is kind of a factor in that. But he's in the newspapers. Good job, UJ. I pronounce that UJ because I've read that is how he himself pronounced his own name. How solid that information is, I don't know. I've just read that before. It's from South Carolina there, and I think in South Carolina that is usually pronounced Yuji, and so that may be actually the more accurate pronunciation. It's just, I say UJ because I've read that that's how he himself pronounced it, even if his own family otherwise may have been Yuji. Okay, so the $1 million question here is, where is McDowell going to retreat to? He may just go as far as Alexandria Port and no farther. And the problem with that is Army of Northern Virginia is now down to red readiness. I think he can still move within Virginia, but I don't know if he's able to attack. Like if he moves into contact again, he may just automatically withdraw. I don't know. I also want to be careful that we don't come close enough over here that we inadvertently wind up with a siege on Fort Washington. I have seen that happen. I myself haven't accidentally besieged it, but I have seen the AI come intentionally besiege Fort Washington when I was playing Union. From across the river, the besieging force was over here. So that is possible. I don't want to do that. Alright, let's see where McDowell goes. Yeah, get on the river. Okay, I think Beauregard can still move within Virginia. He should be able to go up to Alexandria. Close enough to capture it. We'll send, of course, we'll send Johnston with him if I can click Johnston. Yeah, let's do it this way. We'll send both our armies up here. No, he's going back up into Maryland. Aha! Get out of here. Sweet. I didn't fully expect that. I would. Good. Nope. Beauregard, don't you besiege Fort Washington. It would be nice if, okay, so this supply depot in the last episode did turn blue, and they were able to burn it down because of that. It would be nice if you recapture it before it's done burning. If you could stop that process, but it doesn't look like there's a way to do that. Stances. Let's put Johnston in defensive. I like the defensive stance because I feel like it gives, whenever contact with another army is made, I think sometimes it gives you more options on the campaign map. Now, sometimes if the enemy army is in offensive stance and wants to force a battle, sometimes you don't get the opportunity. But a lot of times you'll get the option to either do the tactical battle immediately on contact or to fight basically trench warfare, a siege battle. And that's a useful option if you've got, if I've got armies that could march within reinforcement range pretty quickly, but aren't actually in reinforcement range now. So it's kind of a way to get more troops into the battle if the situation lends itself to that. And then, as I mentioned earlier, there's also the tendency for siege battles converted into tactical battles. I think that there is a tendency to give you a pretty good situation on the battlefield defensively, or like we just had there, a meeting engagement that was easily convertible into a defensive situation. Okay. So we followed up our first victory with pressing McDowell again right on the riverbank, and we have forced him out of Virginia back into the District of Columbia, and we have recaptured Alexandria for the Confederacy. And I think that is a pretty productive state of affairs. Pretty happy with that. And I'll mention it again, 23,000 men, and they're running out of contract time. So it ain't going to be 23,000 men for very long. Patterson's still got his 18,000 over here that have not been engaged. So, there's more Billy Yanks to deal with. And I think this is already a newly formed army here. Army of the Potomac has been established. Currently only 90 men, so there's just an artillery battery there now. But 5,000 more Billy Yanks coming to Annapolis. And we don't... By the way, okay, we did get close enough in scouting mode. Garnett has spotted the Army of Occupation. This will be under McClellan. 20,000 men. Wow, this army starts smaller than that. So they've put a lot of troops already into this army with more coming. That's 26,000 men. With 25 guns. Which in the current state of the game, in July 1861, that's a lot of freaking guns right now. With the little 4 and 6 gun batteries. Okay. I think that will do for this episode. I think that was a pretty good one. If you like what we're doing with the channel, then leave a like, leave a comment. maybe even subscribe. We're just now getting this series kicked off, but if you're watching this later and want to find your way to other episodes in this series that you may not have seen yet, I'm linking the playlist here. At any rate, thank you very, very much for watching. I appreciate it.